Hello everyone, TLSG here. Today we have the first build that I'm featuring post-season reset. And so I wanted to wait until after the over-the-air patch change, especially with Mobius reverting back to more of his original ability. At 3 cost, I think he's a lot less flexible, but nonetheless he is back at being able to permanently affect the game. And so today I want to feature the deck that I used to blast to infinite and a little bit beyond that for this season, and it's not going to be featuring Miss Marvel. I think Miss Marvel is a wonderful card. I think she's very fun, but I think she's also very almost linear, very counterable. There's so many ways that you can interrupt that card, whether it be an Enchantress, a Rogue, a Debris, a Green Goblin, something to disrupt that. Even very niche, but a Lady Deathstrike I've used to clear out a location, and then all of a sudden Miss Marvel is no longer buffing that lane because there's nothing to engage that location. And so today we're going to be featuring a Hawk deck. This one leverages a little bit of bounce mechanic in your Beast, being able to pull those lower cost cards back in, but not all the way into it where you have both Falcon and Beast. This is just a small touch of it. We're not leaning all the way into like the Elsa Bloodstone line. I would much rather be able to do consistent disruption to make sure that your opponent has less than optimal draws. Then we can focus on either going the Hawk route or the Werewolf route, depending on what resources your opponent gets down and what resources we have in hand. And so overall, I've had a lot of success with this list. During recording post-infinite today, I believe I dropped only 1 game out of 10. There are a lot of retreats because at this level, a lot of people do retreat. But still, the deck is very efficient, very fun to play. I like the mind games that get created from where are you going to place your werewolf and where is it going to end up at the end of the game, making it really hard for your opponent to really focus on or lock down any one particular location. And so we're going to jump over into a couple of games. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope you guys enjoy. I wonder if maybe there's not a Galactus here, right? No, Doctor Strange. Interesting. Interesting build from Eva. We'll see. We'll see how it turns out for him. We go first here, but I'm actually going to save Shadow King. We could use it to reset Werewolf right now, but I want to wait maybe a turn, maybe 2 turns. I would much rather get it whenever it's much bigger than do it right now. And so if they don't have some way to pull those cards back in, they're very limited on how much they can do. We do have Shadow King, which we could use for the Craven lane if we end up wanting to. He has 2 cards in hand. We have a Spider-Ham that we can play to take out one of those. I'm not sure if we do that right now. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull the trigger on it right now. I'm going to go ahead and snap on him. I think we're in a pretty good position having that ability to pull those cards back in. Spider-Ham would take out one of the 2 resources that he has. Shadow King resetting either Werewolf, Craven, or both if we're lucky. And then Legion to be able to play those cards and all of our energy efficiently again. We do end up forcing the retreat. All right, next up we have the Living Tribunal coming in at 1,739. Starting off, we have Spider-Ham. We do have Werewolf. We do have the Werewolf, but the space is pretty restricted. Unfortunately, Spider-Ham hits the Infinite. I think our only shot for this game is to either swipe away Limbo with Legion, or to maybe block the Invisible Woman with a Green Goblin to block up and congest that lane. Or maybe if we can stop them from getting their card with something like a Black Widow, a Korg, maybe that can do it, but it's going to be tough. Let's go ahead and do Werewolf now. That way it's on the board, and then I think we'll do Green Goblin next turn, depending on if they play in the Invisible Woman lane or not. So they did a 3-cost card there. I don't think they're going to block it off entirely, but I'm also not going to snap into it. I'm not going to play Nico because I don't want our Hawk or Legion or whatever we play next turn to turn into a demon. So we're going to block up that left lane. They have multiple discard cards in action. The 3-cost card, maybe this isn't a Living Tribunal as much as it is just a regular discard deck. So we can change one of the locations with Nico. We could pull the cards back in. I do like the Lechugia. In case they play there, we have the Hawk, which benefits. I don't think we benefit so much from Necrotia. And so we could do Shadow King and then Beast it back in. I'm going to use Nico in mid to pull Werewolf. Then I'm going to beast the Spider Hand back in. That gives us a free on reveal that we can use to bounce Werewolf where we need to. Just give us a little bit more control on that location. The left lane does turn into Mojo World, so I'm going to need it to be completely capped out. Gambit comes down. Does take out one of our cards there. So even if they have the resummon, it's only over here. Hawk gets 246 right now. But I'm going to need him to stay in place. So I'm going to keep everything in the left lane. I'm not going to bounce Werewolf around. We're going to cap this one out. I think we should be able to win with just what's here. And then I think we win mid, especially if they play any of their cards into the Lechugia. And then Hela only has one spot to resummon, so the pig, the death, it's not going to matter. The 3 cost, the cheap 3 cost in Mojo World, not going to do it for him. I may be out of touch just a smidge. Very, very close. And I may be out of touch just a smidge. Are there bots post-infinite? I know when they rolled out the ranking, there wasn't. That stay and that snap feels very bot-like. All right, next up we have Chrome. Our first location is Murder World, which is a little bit we do want to avoid. But we have Nico. Nico has the on reveal, turn it into a demon. I like that one for the style of deck. I also like anyone that either doubles its power or gives power to the other card, the next card that you play. For now, we're just going to go ahead and play Nico. I think I'm going to play Black Widow next turn. That way I can start congesting their hand, making it hard for them to draw the resources that they need to. With this avatar, with Echo, I'm thinking this is a Miss Marvel deck. And Miss Marvel is a unique one. She's very vulnerable to counterplay. So getting a Storm off into Miss Marvel is decent. Getting a Professor X somewhere and then supporting it later with a Mr. Fantastic, a Captain Marvel is good. But it is able to be overcame and beaten fairly easily in most cases. So I'm going to go ahead and do Mirage. They're going to be able to get rid of the Widow's Bite. That's fine. They don't get rid of the Widow's Bite. That means they're not drawing here, right? I'm guessing Beast into moving over into the left lane from Aunt May's would be fine. It's a gamble. Unless they use Professor X in mid, and then maybe. But we'll see. Whatever they played in mid is going to move out. It's the Doctor Doom. And so I was testing a deck like this, but like I said, it's very vulnerable to counterplay. And just overall is kind of susceptible to just being outplayed. They still haven't played the Widow's Bite. So I'm thinking they may have like an Alioth or something that they felt pretty confident in. But with 20 power over here, I think we can potentially overcome it. And so I'm actually going to spread our power out quite a bit, so that they don't have a safe location to do a Professor X. And they do end up retreating. This is very, very similar to what I would run with Miss Marvel, but I just don't think it's quite there. All right, next up we have Goodie Box. The first location is Shadowland. We do happen to have both Korg and Rock Slide. Finally, we get our disruption tools early. Being able to draw into a beast would give us a lot of extra potential, a lot of extra reach, and it's a Kitty Pryde deck. I haven't seen a Kitty Pryde deck. It's been a while since I've seen one that focuses on it. Ever since she got nerfed, she's just a little bit less potent than she was before. But maybe it's a little bit better now. They have a Squirrel Girl, so I'm thinking that this is more of a Flood deck, an Elsa Bloodstone kind of Flood style deck. Let's go ahead and do Green Goblin. Getting multiples of the 4-power Squirrel Girl is kind of nice. Let's go ahead and play Green Goblin into Jotunheim. It's a little bit unfortunate that it's Jotunheim, but I think we'll be okay. The Angela plus the Kitty Pryde. If we end up drawing Shadow King, that's going to be very beneficial to reset that Angela back down. There is the Shadow King. Speaking of, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn the Rock Slide into the Demon. If we draw Beast, we can pull these back in. I'd rather play a free Demon than a 2-cost Rock Slide on turn 6. And so I'm going to go ahead and focus in on this lane. We do have the Shadow King, which is going to help right size the Angela, maybe Angela and Kitty Pryde. And just overall, it should help us out quite a bit here. We could always do maybe Shadow King in the right lane. Ooh, and speaking of Beast, I'm going to go ahead and do both. I'm going to set Angela back down, and then we always have the Shadow King for the right lane. I'm going to go ahead and snap into it because we have a very strong hand with 2 free cards, a 1-cost card, and then our finishing cards are not that great. Maybe we draw a Hawk, maybe we draw Legion. Werewolf would be pretty decent with a couple of those on reveals, but it's okay. It is what it is. And so they have the blue Marvel coming down, so they do have the Flood deck. We have to look out for the Flood in general. The Green Goblin here, we do get Legion now. I like the idea of doing Legion over here. They're already losing this location. And so then we could do Demon. We could do Demon, Nico, Squirrel Girl, and Shadow King to get quite a bit of reach. But we do get the 2-cube retreat. We'll take it. This high up in the rank, especially this early on in the season, a lot of the games are very hesitant. You get a lot of retreats, so getting 2 cubes and maximizing those, most games are going to end in a retreat either from your end or the opponent's, but we will take the win where we can. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Gallic. The first location is the Forge, which is decent for getting extra on reveals for Werewolf to use. Not that we really struggle in that regard. I'm going to go ahead and do Black Widow here. Do we burn one of their cards or not? I think I'm gonna not. Just in case we draw our Hawk, I want them to have a full deck, as full as we possibly can. Plus, it's kind of like Yondu, where you know a little bit better what kind of cards you can draw. So now that I know Nico is out of the mix, I know I have a 1 out of 6 chance of drawing Hawk or whatever resource I might crucially need. And so it's one of those that I'm a little bit torn on how often you actually want to utilize Hotel Inferno. And so now I'm going to go ahead and do the Werewolf with Daredevil. I'm thinking this is another Miss Marvel deck. I did lose to a Miss Marvel Cerebro 5. It just got a little bit too much power for what I could do, and I bounced in. I used Beast a little bit too late, and I just wasn't able to put that power back on the board, but it's fine. And so now we do have the Rock Slide, but with Lizard over here is interesting. With the Daredevil, Lizard is curious. I'm going to go ahead and do Rock Slide over into the right lane and then Spider Ham over to the left to gather a little bit of information. That will make Werewolf bounce to the right, bounce back to mid, and that's while I get some more information. They may be shooting for like a Professor X in the right lane, and Jessica Jones comes down. Ooh, a rescue. So it could very easily be that they're going to try to do a Professor X in this right lane. There's a couple of things we could do. We could do this number. That would set rescue back down to base if they play a card in Monster Metropolis. If not, then this is kind of vulnerable to a Professor X. So is this one. But I think that's what we're going to do. Now, if they're reading this correctly, they could use Professor X here, knowing that most likely we're going to be pulling the Werewolf out of that middle location. That's what I would do if I had Professor X. I would just kind of leave this one as it is. But we'll see. We'll see if they end up going with that. And if they do, we're actually at a pretty big disadvantage because I would be forcing Werewolf to cap out this right lane, which makes us very vulnerable to a follow-up play, like a Shang-Chi or something similar. Is that Professor X? Yeah. Now the question becomes, do they have it? Because we can just not. If they have Shang-Chi, they win. If not, they end up retreating. It's one of those, it's only one additional cube, but a lot of people play very safe when rank is on the line. And so that was 400 against 413. We gain a little bit, but we can put so much power on the board. And with Werewolf being able to jump around to different locations, it's very hard to pinpoint and lock down a game. And you have so many counterplay measures, especially with Shadow King, with things getting buffed up so much right now. And then Legion is my sleeper pick here. And so that is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you guys as always for being here. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that the new season is going very well for you. Miss Marvel is a fun card, but I just don't think we have the perfect deck or the perfect build for her yet. I think we will eventually get there. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.